Okay, good
Yeah.
deal. All right. Contract to close, and this is the foundation, the fourth class. So how many of y'all have been through every one of them? The first one's systems. Let me put you back so I can sort of see your hand raising and stuff like that. Okay. The first one was systems. The second one is sellers, preparing your listing presentation. The third one was working with buyers. And then this one is contract to close. Has everyone on here been through every one of those?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay. Then you probably will want some of my webinars that I'm going to start doing. Plus, I told the ones before you got on here that I really believe that you guys are going to have, if it's who I think it is, and they're not allowing me to say anything right now, it's someone that's capped with me twice and has been through my program and has also been on my team before. And so, you know, if that works out and if they accept it, I'm very excited for the PC coach that is considering doing this.
Awesome.
So does that make you feel better, guys? Yes.
When will we know that?
I would have thought they would have already said something.
Have they and I missed it?
No, no one has
Okay.
said anything at this
Okay.
point. I don't think anyone has accepted the position.
Gotcha.
You know, it's someone they're going to have to be okay with the model, you know, the new
Right.
model that they're talking about and those kind of things. And so I'm thinking that this person probably will, just because I know them really well. And I really am excited for them to start a career doing this. And I'm excited for me because I'm going to move out and just do what I've always wanted to do and build my own little coaching thing. So anyway, with that said, let me go in here and contract to close. I'm going to move to the second one. The first thing we're going to start out with is once you write a contract, then with Keller Williams, you're going to have to, looks like I didn't save that in there, Carrie. I'm going to let you go ahead and start with yours, Cher, because you've got to start with command. Oh, that's this. I put it on the first one. Command information involved and contract to close. So what are you going to do? You've got a contract now. So what have you got to do to stay in compliance with Keller Williams? And Carrie does that for our team, very good at it. So I am going to let her do what she's good at.
Okay. Marcella, if you want, actually, I can share over you. I'm going to share my screen.
Look at you.
I know it.
She did take my commands away, y'all. All right.
Okay. So when you get anything under contract or as soon as you get a listing, all that good stuff, your first step should always be to put it in command. Your contact should already be in there. And then from there, you can just create the opportunity. That is how you get paid. And so to make sure you get paid as soon as you close, it's great to have everything done. But when you log into command, you'll see all this fun stuff on the left. And is there anybody on here that hasn't just like played around in command much? Everybody kind of familiar with what it looks like and all that good stuff?
I think they said most of them have been to Kaylee's 101, that kind of stuff. So probably a lot of this is going to be very familiar. Is there anyone on here that has not? Did someone raise their hand? Let me see if I can see. Nope. I think you've got pros on here, Carrie.
Awesome. That's my favorite. So you just click on opportunities, or you can create the opportunity from your contact card. And I'll go in and show you what an opportunity in progress kind of looks like. But you'll just click create opportunity. In command, it's very, very simple. If you are creating an opportunity, landing page, anything, your create button is in the top right hand corner of whatever screen you're on. So we'll click create opportunity. From here, you fill out whether it's a listing or a buyer, because that's important. They both require different documents. So listing or buyer, you put your contact in there, your client's name, your opportunity name. Best practice is to put the address of the property. On our team, we have a lot of agents with a lot of stuff under contract. And if they say, hey, I'll use my last name, like Wilson buyer opportunity has been rejected or something, I don't know what that is because I don't know their client's name. It's so much easier for me to see the address and just be able to go from there and figure out what's going on. So, and even if you're not on a team, I would go ahead and suggest that you put the address here just for compliance for the market center. If you call Christy and be like, hey, I just closed 123 Wood Street. Why is it like, what do I need to do to get it within compliance? Well, she can search that address name, the opportunity name, and it'll be so much faster than her having to go in and try to look up the opportunity number, or you having to look it up and then send it to her. So just try to get in the habit of making this the address of the property that you're closing.
And on that, let me ask a question on that, because you knew I was going to ask you something, Terry. Whenever, like a while ago, I was talking about I have an investor and we don't know the property that she's going to want. Now, would you put something in there? Would you put her current address that she is living at and then use it that way? Or what would you do if you don't know an address of what they're wanting to buy?
Now, if you go ahead and put your buyer in there, you can just put, for your sake, right here, it would be a buyer. And then you can put your buyer's last name, or if it helps you, investor from that point. And then you can go in and do the budget and commissions and all that good stuff. But you won't know the rest of that information until you're under contract. And once you get all this filled out the way it needs to be, you can click create, and then you'll create the opportunity. But TG, to go back and kind of answer how you could change that, we'll use this one for example. So it's Wilson Buyer instead of the address name. Well, right here, the general information, you can click on the pencil. So let's say you have your investor's name on there, and then you get it under contract. So now you have an address. So you can click on that pencil, you can change the opportunity name. And let's say whatever the budget was that you had in there, or if you had a 3% commission, well, let's say they purchased something that was $20,000 over what they had budgeted, but the commission, it's not 3%, it's 2.7% because you bought something in Washington County, and that seems to be the way it works there. So you just go in and you can make all the changes from that point and then save it right here. And then it'll update on your side right here. So then you can go in, because the market center, they're not going to be looking at your opportunity if there's no contracts or anything for them to approve through compliance. So once you get that taken care of, you have a contract. So you click on documents, and then we'll be under contract. So you upload your contract, counter, if there's a counter. This is where you would go ahead and get your general buyer disclaimer done, lead-based paint if that's applicable. Go through, do the URSA MLS printout, do a screenshot of the MLS page. So you go in and you submit all these files, or add all the files, and then you could submit to MC. So you can submit. I like to continue to submit, like if we get a new general addendum, I'll go in and add that general addendum and then resubmit, even though we're not about to close. That way they go in, they approve what I've submitted, and they will kick it back. They'll reject it because the inspection repair addendum's not in there. Well, we just don't have it done yet. So it's just right there. What that saves the time-wise is, I know a lot of agents, they'll go in and they'll hold everything in there, and then they'll submit right before closing. Well, let's say you had a serial number that had a typo in it on your counter, or your counter your general addendum referenced the counter and not the contract. Because compliance will kick those back. They will not approve that because it's wrong, because it has the wrong number. So instead of finding that out 3 weeks before closing, you're finding it out the day of closing or the day after closing, and you're having to go back and do another general addendum or have your people initial the correction. So I always do best practice, submit it as you get it, and they will reject it, but that's okay. You're getting it approved as you go. So it's step by step instead of there at the end. And it's faster that way too. And then once you get into closing this folder, they'll want the page 4 of the inspection repair. And you don't have to just submit page 4. Like on the first one, it's the under contract, they want 1 through 3. You can submit the whole inspection repair addendum with the signatures on page 1 through 3 and page 4 is blank. They will accept that. And then on here, you don't have to just pull out page 4. You can submit the whole thing as long as there's signatures on page 4. I did have that question a few weeks ago about, do you really have to split all these contracts up? No. And there are times that right now our agents aren't really going to closing, but I had an agent have the document acknowledgement. They left it at title, or they had their stuff ready for the client to pick up at the title company, and they got it signed there. Well, the title company scanned it back over to me because I'm not in the office. And the agent said, hey, can you just send this to Carrie with the signed closing documents? And so it was all one file. I submitted that whole file because it had documents acknowledgement in there. And then I also submitted the signed closing docs, signed settlement statements right there, even though documents acknowledgement was attached. So you don't have to break it up. Just make sure whatever these folders are requiring, that you have that in that file. And then the final DA, pre-DA, revised, all this is uploaded by the Market Center. So as soon as Christy gets you paid out, she will upload the final DA, the disbursement agreement. So, and you just submit all that. When you get your closing docs, the Market Center will upload your title check for you. I would go ahead and take a copy of it yourself and keep it in your files so you do have an electronic copy. But that's just as simple as it gets. Once you do get it under contract, you will have to click on offers and get an offer submitted. You just put in the amount that the contract is, and then it will allow you to go in and submit your commissions. So that is why it's important on this front page, the details. Like TG, I was saying, if you had 3% on the commission, but when you got under contract, your commission is actually 2.7. It's really important to change that because that overlaps to the commissions tab. So that 2.7 shows that that's what the commission is going to be.
So they need to go back to details to change it, not on commissions.
Yeah, and that should be, you shouldn't have to go back and change, because when you get the contract, you should know what your commission is, 2.7.
Well, sometimes though, we negotiate our commission instead of them having repairs, we reduce it by 1% or something like that. Not normally, but that could happen. So in that case, would that
case, I always do a change request form
okay?
and submit that through to Christy.
Yeah, I thought they had told us not to, that we couldn't change the commission after it was in there, that they had to do it. So is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because when we get something under contract, I submit the commissions because they have to be submitted 72 hours prior to closing. And a lot of times, if it comes down to the wire, we may negotiate commissions there at the end, and our commission's already submitted. You cannot go back and change it, but you can submit a change request form to Christy, and she has like it's a Google Doc. She's got that link. You can call her and say, hey, I need to change this. Email that link to you, and then you just fill it out. And I always add to the notes. There's notes right here. If I'll put in submitted change request form for this reason on this day. So that way everything's documented and I know what's going on. So if I look right at closing, because if it was three weeks prior and I look and I thought, oh, dang, that all needs to be changed. Did I do a change request form? I've got it in the notes to document what changes needed to be made and what were made.
The more notes, the better off you're going to be, because once you get 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 15 under contract at one time, You're not going to
Okay.
remember everything that you did on each one of those. Does anybody have any questions for Carrie?
I do. Of
That
course.
doesn't surprise us. Yeah.
Now, I'm getting confused because one of the things that, we have to go into the MLS to do our form simplicity. So whenever we are asking for our broker to sign off on a document, does the opportunity and the upload into Command, does that trigger a response from our broker to sign something? Or what triggers that response for them to sign something?
We submit everything through Form Simplicity. So if I send out a general addendum that I need the agent signature, the client signature, the broker signature, I send that general addendum out and they get an email
Okay.
to notify them of signatures. And if I need it quick, I always send them a text message like, hey, I just sent this, please sign it.
Well, and even if you don't need it quick, I appreciate somebody sending me a text that they've sent me a contract that needs to be signed. Yeah. It just helps you get it done more efficiently and everybody feels better about it.
Well, and especially for me, on our team, it's either Madeline or myself that send out general addendums on behalf of the agent. So, or if it's a general buyer disclaimer, we always get those taken care of, lead-based paint, seller property disclosure. We try to handle all that for the agent so they don't have to worry about that paperwork. But if I send out a general buyer disclaimer or I send the property disclosure out, I'll text the agent and say, hey, I just sent this out. You may want to let your clients know. Or if it has their signature on it, I let them sign first, and then they can say, hey, here, this is coming. But it helps the agents, but then they also know, like if their client calls them, it's like, hey, what is this? They know what's going on too. But if you're trying to send something to your broker, I would just send them a quick text, like, hey, check your email. I've got this in your inbox.
Okay. Any more questions? Good question, TG.
Good.
Y'all ready to write a contract? Me too. I'm ready for you to do that. Okay, let me go back in and share over you.
Hey, Marcella, I have a question though for you. This is kind of not on the contract situation, but the contract we signed with the Market Center, is that going to be carried over with the next productivity coach, or what's the situation on that? Or do we need to get in contact with the Market Center about that?
If you are okay with staying with it, then I would say that it'll just carry over. There's not a problem. If you have questions about it, then I would get with Eric and talk to him about that. Yes. Any other questions? Thanks for that question, Skylar. Okay, get your head in the game. I mean, we've got a contract now and we're ready to go to close. So what should I do? Now, Carrie just went through some real important things to get you paid, which is going to, the things that I talk about today are going to line up with those things you need to do what I'm saying in order to do what she said in Command. So number one, we want to close on time. Remember what I said a few minutes ago, because the lender got sick yesterday, the tax guy, I'm waiting on my taxes, and I have been after them day and day and day to get these things. And so, and I've said the deadline, actually I said the deadline was Monday, so they would have missed it if they were doing that. And I have moved my closing. We were supposed to have closed on the 1st, and so we've moved that out. You've got to know what's going on so you can close when you're supposed to close. Now, on time could be a week after you set the original date, but on time is whatever the buyer and seller have agreed to. If the seller needs to stay for a little bit longer and you can get that permission with the buyer for them to do that, then that's on time. So don't beat yourself up. Close. This contract is between that buyer and that seller. So you want a smooth process. How do you feel like, what causes a smooth process? This is open, so talk to me. What would make it smooth?
Communication.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I was looking for. You've been listening and you've also been a salesperson. You are not going to get anywhere with them mentally. They're going to be okay when it finally happens. But in the end, if you haven't communicated, they're going to feel like they didn't get what they paid for. And the buyer doesn't even actually pay, the seller does. But both of them need to be communicated with what's happening and where you're going. These people didn't list this house that I bought, but I sent them a text a couple of days ago and just said, hey, just checking on the progress, everything okay? And immediately got a text back, hey girl, you know, they feel like they're my friend at this point. Communication changes that relationship. And I believe that in a different situation, I would get referrals from them. Really, communication is, if you do anything, the one thing in a contract process is communicate regularly all the time. And then that helps you win future business, and future business is what you're looking for in here, because you're in this to stay, not just for this one transaction. So how do you ensure successful closings? You be organized with systems. We just went over systems that we have. Also, I would suggest, if you got anything from me, whether you use Box or not, that you get an online source that you're going to use, that you set your files up so you can move everything in there, move that into command back and forth so that you've got those files for yourself. You're going to build that referral list, that database off of these people that you're writing these contracts with, and you do need the information. The law says, it doesn't say you can't keep the information and put it in files. It does say when you leave the market center or the company that you're with, you don't take that listing and that information with you. So you would want permission to take it. But those are your clients at this point via Keller Williams. So that's when I said, when Carrie was talking about notes, that's called CYA, is what you call that when you're going through school. The more notes, the better off you are. Be knowledgeable about all the steps involved with and the potential pitfalls. One of the ways you're going to be knowledgeable, and knowledge, by the way, brings confidence. So as you become more knowledgeable in each one of these different steps, you're going to be more confident as you walk through and you talk to other people. And it helps you, it does help you to avoid the things that could happen that could cause the closing not to close. If you get into a situation and you feel like it's just impossible, ask some of your peers. Go to someone and say, hey, this is where I am. What do you suggest? Have you ever had this happen before? There are people that will help you through those. Knowledge, confidence, and your peers, your mentors. Come from contribution. Have a mindset of winning for your clients. Be positive. If you're having a down day, they don't need to know about that down day. You don't, I'm glad it sounded like I was going to say something else there, but they don't need to know about the down day that you're having. So keep that winning mindset, because before long, have y'all ever been in a situation where you just felt really, really bad about what was happening? You were sort of angry on the inside, and somebody in the group starts laughing and talking, and if you fall into that group, before long, you've got a smile on your face. I learned this in leadership, and so y'all are going to probably think this is crazy, but most of you that know me will say, yeah, I can see you doing that. A long time ago, when I first moved up here, I was with an insurance company, and when I had agents underneath me in my district, and I was having a district meeting in my office, and I stood up in front of them, and I stood there and looked at them for a few minutes, and then I was getting this point across, and I just started laughing, which was a little bit difficult when you don't have anything happening. I planned this out, and I laughed and I laughed, and I started laughing so hard because it was funny watching their faces that I had tears in my eyes. Pretty soon, everyone in that room was laughing, and what was coming from them was, what are we laughing at? What happened? What did you see? They didn't even know, and they were laughing. So your mindset is very contagious with the people that you're around. Working corporately with the other agents and their clients. Sometimes we feel like we work with for lack of better words, not so smart agent. And our pastor said something this past week that laughed, and I almost said it then. He said, that's just a stupid person. And he said, hopefully I don't use stupid on tomorrow night's congregation with them saying that. But to work and be mean to another agent and the things that they're doing and make them feel stupid and make them feel like they have to do it your way and not good about what they're doing means that those people are not going to want to work with you anymore. The number one person that you need to win in that transaction is that other agent to get it through. You want to get it closed. You represent your seller, you represent your buyer, and you want to have a clean contract and clean closing. So work with them, figure out what it's going to take to get them there. Compliment them, say, hey, you know, I know you always do this. For some reason, I don't have it yet. Do you think something happened? Could you send me? Not, hey, you know I'm supposed to have this contract. Doesn't work. Cooperate with them. Over communicate with your clients on the process. We've already talked about that. Really important. Ask for referrals and testimonies and review at the peak time when your clients are the happiest. We've talked about this. I think we talked about it last week, is that, you know, when you get them through that inspection and repair and everything is great and everything is fixed, ask them if they know of someone that is looking for a home at this point or wants to list a home at this point. And, you know, we've got to be sensitive because of what's happening with the pandemic and everything. People are still buying and selling. If they weren't, we would not be having record-breaking months like we're having, and not just here, but all over the nation. A lot of real estate agents are reporting record-breaking months. So be sure and ask for those referrals at closing. That's the happiest time that they've got. Be sure you get some kind of a video, some kind of a link to send them to your Facebook page, that you've got your business page, a link to send them to Google, a link to send them to Zillow, a link to send them so they can say something really good about you and your business ethics and your communication, whatever. And you may have to give them an example. Hey, look at this testimony I just had. Could you do something like that for me? People, sometimes they don't know what to say, and it helps for you to say those kind of things. Leave a lasting impression of the right kind. You know, we joke and say first impressions are so important. If you mess up on that first impression, sometimes it's really hard to go back in and reevaluate and prove yourself. It's that trust. Always tell the truth. Always tell the truth. Be on top of your game. Don't wing it. If you don't know something, say, hey, I'm not really sure how that needs to be answered. Let me get back with you, and get back with them. Don't forget them. You know, I had to send a text. Did you forget me? What happened? You know, to know that they were sick. To me, those people that weren't, and they're both very good at what they do. So I don't hold this against them. But what I would have rather had happen when the lender wasn't feeling well and they were supposed to get back with me that day is to, hey, I'm sick. I'll do this first thing in the morning. If you've got people that you've said, I will get back with you, and you don't, you lose some of that trust when you don't do that, because they start to think, are they going to do this next time? You know, in any job situation, if you've got a owner or a boss in an 8-to-5 job, or a team lead, or you're on a committee, even in what we are right now, and you say, I'm going to do something. And when you say enough times, I'm going to do it, and you don't do it, eventually the person you're working with is going to believe you're not going to do it anyway. That's not how you get referrals. So jump in and immediately fix anything that's wrong. Even if you're doing this webinar and you've got a situation and it needs to be fixed, as soon as you get off, fix it right then. Eat that frog. The first part of the real estate sales process is the hard part. And this comes out of Shift. It's a book that Gary Keller wrote. And he says that focused work of making connections and achieving those agreements, that's the first part of it. Getting those leads, like Landon was talking about, making those phone calls. How many leads do you get? This is the hard part. The second part is the wide-eyed, vigilant guardian of this transactions until it makes it to closing. Man, you don't want to lose something that you worked this hard to get in position. And Shift is how top agents tackle tough times. So you get those leads, you set those appointments from those leads, and you get an agreement with them. An agreement would be like a exclusive buyer's agency. Those are agreements. A contract would be to buy something. And then once you get to this part, you're down here where you've got the contract and you're ready to take it to closing and to payday. So you've done all those hard parts that we talked about in the very beginning. Now you're ready for the fun. Make it happen. Know the process. That's why I feel like these 4 foundational things that I'm teaching are extremely important. You have got to know systems to build your business, because we want to build businesses worth owning. That's part of our culture. Lives worth living. and legacies worth leaving. That's what Keller Williams says. The first part of that is to build businesses worth owning. So know that process. Who's involved in this? Who are the affiliates that you're going to work with? What do you need to do with Command? All those different systems. How are you going to track your business? Do you have a tracker? We have one. If you don't have one and you're using ours, then now you have one. How have you set your goals? You've got to know where you are and where you want to go in order to know when you get there. So get those systems, seize the golden opportunity, take responsibility. If something goes wrong, don't blame it on the lender. Like I said, the lender was sick. The tax accountant got sick yesterday. You know what? It's still my fault. I had to get up early this morning and text them and say, when can I expect this stuff? It's got to happen. And if it doesn't, it's not their fault. It's I didn't follow up and take responsibility. This is a little saying that I say all the time. If you don't take responsibility, you lose control. And by losing control means this may not close. Even if it is not your responsibility, the bottom thing that you want to look at any transaction is getting it closed, whatever it takes. If you're doing the other agent's job, if you don't do it, it's not going to get done, then I do the other agent's job. Take responsibility, and then you get paid. Okay, these are the basic steps in a contract as it progresses through. So first of all, you get the offer. And once you've got an offer, that offer can be rejected, it can be accepted, or it can be countered. Any of those three can happen. Once it's accepted, you move. You have 10 days to do the inspection and then see how the arrow goes. Everything is done. They accept that and they can reject the inspection, or they can reply to the inspection. Now, and they can reply to the inspection. So if they reject the inspection, then you've got to go back and fix something, renegotiate. Guys, the two things that you are still, well, you're renegotiating the whole time, but the two important things, as far as I'm concerned, that you're going to be involved in negotiation and deep into these things. And when they pass, you take a deep breath. Number one is the inspection, getting the items in there, because we pay an inspector. We pay an inspector to find everything they can wrong with that house. Your job is to tell the buyer or to tell the seller, whoever you're dealing with, that even though they get a list that's 5 things long, that other list might have been 20 or 30 long. They have narrowed it down. So talk about the inspections to your clients, what they're going to expect and what's happened in the meantime. So number one, if I get 5 things, I'm not upset. I'm not offended. I understand that they probably had 25 and they've narrowed it down. Do I have to do all 5? The rule is if it's working and functioning proper, the seller does not have to fix it. Just because it's a rule does not mean that that's how it has to go. Do they want to close? Are those 5 things, would they cost $1,000 and they've got a $430,000 home that they're buying? Is it worth losing that buyer over $1,000? You know, those are the conversations that you go back. Earlier, we were talking about leadership and having tough conversations and being able to handle these objections correctly. You be the leader, guys. This is your business. Take anything you can on leadership, negotiations, and understanding other people. That's when we did the Personality Plus. If you're dealing with somebody that's a high D and you're an I and you want to have fun through this whole thing and they're going, what the heck is wrong with this stupid person? You know, this is not funny. I can't even believe that they're thinking this is funny and they're even smiling over this. Understand who you're dealing with. It is offensive sometimes for us to push our type of personality on other types. So that's what we do. That's what, when we were talking about earlier, when TJ said it's communication, you are communicating with them with body language more than you are with what you say. So be ready with that. And then we get past the inspection. We've got everything accepted. One of the things you've got to do is to get clear title. Now, up in the very beginning, one thing that this little pyramid does not say, once you get it accepted, be sure that you send your contracts to title and to lender. Don't wait on that. No one else is going to do it. You send those contracts to them and everything they need to get this thing underwritten and through to closings. So that title company is going to be your best friend and your lender is going to be your best friend. You have to work with them to get through underwriting and to get to closing. So you give it to a loan underwriter, and that's who I was just talking about. That loan underwriter is somebody that you want to do what they say because they have the power. They have the power to either decline this and say, we're not going to underwrite it. You've got to find another lender, or they can fix it. Work with them, send them things that they want, stay on top of it, do it now is going to be really, really important. So I would suggest that if you have things in closing, when you get things in closing, because I know you're going to have things in closing, but I would suggest that you set aside time in your schedule. If you don't have an assistant, if you're not on a team, you don't have somebody doing these things for you, you set time in your schedule to work on these. So you don't get sidetracked when you're supposed to be doing lead generating, which is going to build other contracts. If you get a contract and you focus all your time and all your energy on working through that contract and don't continue to do lead generating and prospecting, the things that's going to make your business, the one thing I said that's going to make a difference in your future business out there, then you're going to be 90 days out again. You don't want that to happen. You might be a smarter 90 days, but you're still 90 days out on starting that process. So don't stop that. Set aside time in your day that you can, say an hour, 30 minutes. If you've got 10 things, it's going to take a little bit longer. So, and make yourself a list. I go into my notes on like the daily and put the day up there and I put, okay, I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to do this. Maybe I would remember that and maybe I won't remember that. I don't want to take a chance of it being maybe I won't remember that. Make yourself a list of things that you need to do. For instance, I asked Jimmy this morning if he had it on his list. Sometimes I help him make his list. I know y'all have been there before, but he's supposed to be changing the utilities over so that on the 5th when we close, we'll have utilities on at the other place, and we're leaving them on here because we keep this for an Airbnb. Those things need to be done because all of a sudden you go, oh, I forgot to do that because you didn't set it on your schedule to do it. So schedules are really, really important. The loan underwriter is going to give you a list of things that they need in the very beginning. You're going to have to tell your buyers that it's really important that they get those things immediately to that underwriter. And then the loan can be funded or it can be rejected. So they're going to say, okay, or they're going to say, no, go back and find these things for me. You may have other escrow instructions that you need to send to them on our team. And I would highly suggest that you have one of these. Carrie does a little contract to close. So it's we call it escrow form that she sends to the lender and to the title company. It's got the buyer's name on it, the seller's name on it, their information, how you can get in touch with them, the price of that, what termite company they have, if they're going to get a survey, who do they want to use, where at the very bottom, where did we get this buyer? What source? Did it come from referral? Did it come from family? So that as we go back, we can fill all those steps in. And so our agents understand that at the end of the year, 50% of their business came from centers of influence, or 10% of their business came from centers of influence, and they need to up that game a little bit. All this stuff needs to be done as far as your closing information for you and for them. Then you go to closing, you transfer funds, they will record the new deed, and then the owner can take possessions and you can get your check. Woohoo! So, success tip number 1, throughout the entire contract to close process, follow up regularly with closing, title, and escrow. Cannot say that enough to you. Regularly have something that you follow up with them. And sometimes I go, gosh, I've already done that. I know I've already done that. Just do it again if they don't have it. Doesn't make any difference. It's less time for you to send it to them again than it is to call and go, you've already got that. I sent it to you on this date. Or you can send them a quick text and say you've already got it, but usually it's just easier to copy that link out of box and send it to them again. And with the loan officer and the title company, both of them. And then both agents need to attend closing. Now this has gotten a little bit opinionated on whether you need to attend closings or not, especially during the pandemic. And I'm expecting that if it works without you going to that, that may be something that you want to skip. Or you think you want to skip it. Let me tell you what you miss by not seeing those people at closing. You miss that final goodbyes with them. You miss getting that referral. You miss getting that video that you could get at their happiest moment. You miss the fact that when you hand them those keys, that's the fulfillment of your passion of why you're doing this job. All the different things, the thank you. If you're going to give them a thank you gift, you can send it and it can be at the title company, but it is so much more fun and so much more memorable. Even if you're not going to be there the whole time, you might drop by at closing and at least wave if they're in there, and we're not doing in-person closings at that point. Or you could be there when they get out of their car and you could give them a gift or something with your mask, those kind of things. But just make it personable. Make it memorable for them, because when you get that referral, you want them thinking about the things that you did for them that made this a happy time for them, not a sad time or just an okay time. It needs to be a great time. They're making the largest investment, or selling one of the largest investments that most people ever make in their lives. And so really, really important. Do you need a closing checklist? So most checklists will work in either directions, but we have a buyer's agent contract to close and a listing agent contract to close. There are some different things on there, and you could take one list and make it up, have it, and then you can check off if it's listing, or you can check off if it's buyer, or you can have two separate lists on that. So step by step, working with a buyer and seller contract. First of all, like we talked about in the pyramid, you're going to receive that. These are the steps that you're going to go through to know that you're going to review all areas of the contract. When you get that contract, do not skim through it. You know that contract. It is your fiduciary responsibility to catch anything. Like, are they asking for the washer and dryer? If you don't see that, guess whose fault it's going to be? Guess who might be buying a washer and dryer for those people, that because you didn't see that contract in there? Is there earnest money? Do you need to pick that up? Is there a non-refundable? What was the closing date? You know, did they ask for termite? Do they want a warranty? If I were you, I would go through and I would make a list of things that are really important. I say important parts of a contract, and have them somewhere so that if you're presenting this contract on Zoom or virtually, then you're going to want very much to have a list of things that you make sure you cover. And as you cover them, you check them off. Extra things that, are they leaving the washer and dryer, those kind of things that we're talking about. How was that contract